again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games for the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives of varying skill range. I am the Raider of the Lost Ark here, Andrew. With us, our Crystal Skull, Keith.
Hello.
And joining us, our special guest, our last Crusader, Donnie.
Keith belongs in a museum.
For this week, we decided to play Indiana Jones in the Great Circle by Machine Games. Indiana Jones in the Great Circle is a first-person action-adventure game where you are playing, of course, Indiana Jones. And you are, of course, doing a globe-trotting adventure where you're trying to uncover this mystery of this supposed Great Circle that it wraps around the Earth in his home to some significant power. And, of course, you're trying to stop the Nazis from getting it. But before we start, we're going to talk a little Indiana Jones movies here to get a little bit of our background. So, this is a great panel. So, I guess I'll start. I have seen majority of the movies. I've, of course, seen the classic three. Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and The Last Crusade. And, unfortunately, I saw The Crystal Skull. I did not see Dial of Destiny. I decided after Crystal Skull, I was like, nah, I'm not going to waste my time with that. But, Keith, how many movies have you seen?
So I've seen the rolling ball scene. I've seen the scene where he swaps out the statue, and I'm sure I've seen some other things. I know Indiana Jones, like I know Star Wars, like culturally. I understand all the references to it. I know what it's about, largely at least, you know, from a very, very high level perspective. But I wasn't a big movie person as a kid, and so I think I like missed the window, and I just never had the interest to go back and watch them as an adult.
It's so wild to me that, like, I feel like these, like, there's Star Wars and Indiana Jones, like, there's so many movies that have, like, I feel like defined generations, and you just apparently just did not have a childhood.
I just coasted through the first 20 years of my life or so.
What about you, Donnie?
Well, I've seen all of them, unlike Keith. I've seen every movie. I've seen every movie. Dial of Destiny. I've seen them. I've seen most of the original ones so many times I can't even play it back. I played the old SNES games. I played the games from all the games actually. The Atlantis game, the Infernal Machine. I played all of them. So I'm excited to weigh in on this because I've got some respect of Andrew.
Were any of them good? Any of those games good?
The point and click ones, I think it was I forget the name of it, but it was. The point and click ones were fun if you like Monkey Island and that kind of stuff. The Journey to Atlantis or the Lost City of Atlantis, I think is what it's called. SNES. Obviously, it was like Aladdin. You know, those other games that we just like loved growing up. Are they great games? Probably not now, but they were at one point. So some of them were.
Well, let's find out. Was this a great game for you guys? I guess I'll kick this off. So whether this game was a game or pass, Indiana Jones in the Great Circle, this is a definite game. I loved this game. I was thoroughly surprised how much I liked this game. I was iffy about it at first. Anytime I saw footage of it, I felt like any footage of this did not do this game justice because I was like, I don't get it. Like the combat looked kind of, you just see him punching dudes, and I'm like, is that it? Like, what are you doing? Do you have a gun? Like, do you have a whip? Okay, what do you do with it? Like, I felt like any video they showed of this game, I was like, but I like Machine Games. I absolutely loved their Wolfenstein series. Loved those games. You know, we did an episode on one of them. Go check it out. So yeah, this game felt so much like an Indiana Jones movies, like the classic. Like they haven't been able to do an actual Indiana Jones movie that felt like an Indiana Jones movie. And here comes a game, and it's like this feels like Indiana Jones. Yeah, so this is a definite game for me.
That's why I said I had a ranking. Like I have a ranking for that exact reason, Andrew.
Well, why don't you go next? What is this?
Okay. Well, obviously it's a game for me. I think it's an absolute game, if not a movie. If movie, game, or pass was a part of the equation, it would be movie. But this is 100% game for me. I will go into detail on why I think so, but it's something if you even have an interest at all in Indiana Jones or even a vague knowledge of what it is, Keith, you should probably check it out because it's really a fun time.
Well, I guess you gave me a good lead in there because having really just a cultural knowledge base of Indiana Jones, it was a cool game. Like I said, I get the premise of Indiana Jones. He's like kind of I guess again, if my facts are right, you know, he's like a historian /
no, he's a
treasure collector.
Nope.
Archaeologist.
Andrew.
He does taxes.
Thank you.
That's all he
Okay.
does.
Okay. So all in all,
Close.
yeah, again, treasure hunter, always on these adventures, and it felt like an adventure game. It like felt like what I imagine Indiana Jones is. So, and it gives you right away, even though I think you guys were talking about this a little bit, that it doesn't quite fit in the actual world because it's part of the movies, but they give you the statue swapping scene. Like, hey, I know that. Like, I'm the was it the Leonardo DiCaprio meme? Yeah, I get that. But it's fun. Like, it's got good overall feel to it. The story seemed interesting. I was like actually watching through the cutscenes. And yeah, so it's I don't know if I think if I was like a big Indiana Jones fan or even had seen a bunch of them, I'd be with Andrew, like definite game. But for like where I'm at, I'm like, that does nothing. It has no effects on the game, and it kind of fits what I imagined it to be. So it's fun and it's a game.
So I'm at least going to say I don't think you need to know Indiana Jones to like these this game.
That's what I just said.
I know
with pure
kind of saying of
contextual
like,
source.
Like more if I knew Indiana Jones. This is I don't think it's that you need to know Indiana Jones at all.
I don't know. I think that adds a lot of added value because even yourself, you're saying like they did a good job of making it Indiana Jones, like where a lot of other things have fallen short. So you're clearly extra excited about that. That added value for you. And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just without having that knowledge, you can still enjoy the game, is what I'm saying. And then you're just like, yeah, this was another point Keith didn't make.
I think there's a degree that falls in like the gameplay and the audios, all of it really, like the other categories we're going to talk about. But there's a point to it, right? Like if you had no idea who Indiana Jones was and someone set this in front of you, or like Uncharted, and we'll probably make several of those references as things go on, which I think we'll talk about. But like, if you had no idea who Indiana Jones was, this probably wouldn't have hit for me. I think it's a solid like 2 points out of my score. If I had no idea who Indiana Jones was, I would be like, all right, I don't. This seems kind of XYZ to me. I think there's a degree of that where you have to understand or at least be aware of the persona behind him. And I think that influences a lot of people in how they enjoy this game.
I mean, because this is obviously a Disney property, and I feel like Disney loves to just milk those, nostalgia hits. And this game, of course, is doing it. But I don't know. I think it obviously does help, but I don't think it's too necessary. But we'll get into the story. And Keith, I'll have you obviously take the lead here first. But to get into the story, as I said, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you obviously play Indiana Jones. You start off with a little kind of fun, once again, nostalgia trip. But you quickly go, and this takes place between, I already forget. I already pulled it up here. It takes
Raiders
place between,
and The Last Crusade.
Yeah. It takes place between those two movies.
1937, as Keith correctly identified.
Yeah. So this is why, like, I don't think you actually fully needed, like, it's not like if you watch the movie, you're going to get references. But anyway, it does take place kind of in between the main series movies. And, you're at the college that Indiana Jones works at. Somebody breaks in, you get in a fight, something is stolen, and you need to get it back. And so that begins your adventure to the Vatican. But Keith, so since you obviously never seen any of the movies, how did this story hook you? Did you find it interesting at all? Or is this me and Donnie just being nostalgia of Indiana Jones?
Well, so part of it, I guess, is it kind of gives a semi, I don't know if paranormal is quite the right word, but like paranormal twist, which that's a part of Indiana Jones where I'm like, is that something I just don't realize? And it's kind of part of all of them. Because I always thought it lived in a very quote unquote realistic world, taking out all of his ridiculous things that he's constantly doing. But like, that was sort of like, where is this going? But I think it does still play a factor of me having that at least some level of knowledge, because if I didn't, and I think Donnie, maybe this is what you were kind of saying, is like, if I had absolutely zero knowledge of Indiana Jones, this would have just been like, okay, what's going on here? This doesn't make sense. But having at least a base level knowledge, I was like, wait, is this some weird twist? But I was interested to see what's going on with this giant, and I don't think that's a spoiler. It happens very early on in the game. And so it's like,
someone's listening right now going, "Dah! You said giants." Dah!
Can't play any more of this game.
Such a huge spoiler.
But it's like, so I guess there was that level of it. And again, knowing that, is Harrison Ford actually the voice actor in it, or did they just find someone? Because he sounds very much like him. At least I thought so. And I and I could get that's where it was going for. And so I just, I don't know, I could piece enough of it together that I was like, I want to see where this is going, because I was like, I don't know, maybe this will just be my first Indiana Jones movie, basically.
What about you, Donnie? Did you like
The
this game
story?
story?
Yeah, so basically, like I've been talking it up because I feel that I really am having a good time with it. So I'm excited to talk about it. But I've only gotten to, I guess it's probably like 3 out of 4 of like the main territories. Like I just got, actually I think it's like in the second one. I'm just in Giza, so like I haven't gotten
That's
that
where I'm
far into
at.
the game. I just got my lighter, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That spoiler alert that happens, of course, you've seen it in the trailers.
Oh,
But
he gets this later.
I don't think, I
So
say all
that's
that to say, like,
spoiler.
I don't think I'm that far into it, but I'm far enough to know about the story. Honestly, just the way that it's shaping up, and the we'll talk about in sound design, obviously, with Troy Baker's work on the voice acting, but like the cues and the just everything about the game so far that I've enjoyed. It literally is playing so far like the third best Indiana Jones movie I've seen. And if you put that hat on, like you're playing it, and we'll talk about this when we get into more deeper gameplay stuff. But like when you put on the actual Indiana Jones fedora, like you think about the game differently, and it plays like something totally unusual for the genre, which I seriously appreciate in terms of pulling it off. They did a good job.
Ranks to the third best Indiana. Did you say what is your ranking of the Indiana Jones movies?
Well, we didn't rank them yet, but since Keith hadn't seen them, so I guess we can't really take his opinion. I think you've seen 4 out of 5 at this point, so
Yeah,
so my ranking,
and I'm gonna keep it that way.
that's fine. That's fine. Of the movies, my ranking is the Last Crusade is I think the best one. The Raiders Lost Ark, second best. After that, I would have to say, well, I think Dial of Destiny honestly is better than Temple of Doom. Temple Doom,
Really?
it's one of those two right there, just because it's closure to a guy I've been watching my entire life. Like that Dial of Destiny is the end of his story. Spoiler alert. It
I
is,
mean, the
and it was
guy's like
nice.
85.
I'm just saying it was nice to see him. He rode into the sunset once. So this is the second time he rode into the sunset, and I was like, all right, you're done, Indy. Put the hat down. Then it comes the whatever, the one with Shia LaBeouf is the last one.
The Crystal Skull.
That I just didn't like that one at all. But
I hated the Crystal Skull so much.
this game protrudes itself right after the Raiders in terms of my favorite story. So long story long, that's my opinion.
All right. Yeah. See, I was enjoying this game story. It's like you were kind of saying, Donnie. Like it wasn't anything like it just felt like an Indiana Jones movie, and that's what was kind of make me enjoying it. So that's why I wanted to get Keith's opinion first here. I was like, oh, is this just me being like, this is Indiana Jones? This is fun. I found this story to be just fun enough because it's very intriguing. It felt like Indiana Jones of this, you know, it's also very much kind of like the Da Vinci Code, where it starts as something simple and it goes this big, deep conspiracy of secret societies and blah blah blah, which is very Indiana Jones. And of course, you meet the big bad villain you do, which the villain I've only
Fantastic.
yeah, we're at like the same spot, Donnie. Just his
Fantastic.
little
His
introduction, I'm like,
mouth, just his mouth
yeah,
looks evil. Like he just looks like an evil person, and
just an evil
he
German, and it's
sounds
just
evil. He's a Nazi first
yeah,
off, so yeah, I'm just saying, like, screw those guys. They just, come on, man. Like Indiana Jones hates Nazis, and that's the number one thing you need to learn about.
yep, that's punching Nazis and fascists. But yeah, just this guy's introduction, like that was my goal. I'm like, all right, this game's long. Yeah, I want to take a pause and explain that. This game, you're looking at 13 and a half to 22 and a half hours.
You got to fly if you're doing that. Like, you got to fly.
Yeah, completionist is listed at 32 hours. Like, this is a hefty game. This is a hefty single player game. And so I was already at like 6 hours, and I'm like, I still have not met the big bad guy because he's on the cover. And I saw the trailers of it. I'm like, I know there's this
But
big
you
bad
heard him.
German.
But you heard of him. You heard him in
Yes.
side quests. You heard him in
Yep.
nuns whispering. Like, you heard. It's just bizarre. That part of it is like insane gameplay.
Yeah. But when they do finally introduce him, it's just like, ooh, here's the bad guy, and it's awesome. It's done so well. So I'm just enjoying the story. Like it's nothing, like I said, keeping me on the edge of my seat, but I'm enjoying it. Of course, there's another new Indiana Jones girl in this game.
Gina.
Gina, thank you. I kept wanting to say like Maria, but no, it's not. But anyway, Gina, once again. So she's a new girl, but she does a great job. It feels so much like an Indiana Jones girl because I just remember as a kid, I found a lot of the love interest in the girls just kind of annoying. They were always very whiny, and you just had to save them. Gina here is much more kind of her own character, but she's still very much a nuisance, and it plays so well of just like this other person doing their story, interacting with Indiana Jones. And the story to me is just a lot of fun. But let's get into the gameplay of this. This is the first thing. All right, this is the thing that surprised a lot of people with Indiana Jones, including myself. Everyone, when they saw this, was just expecting essentially another Uncharted. Like when everyone heard this, they're like, "Oh, like why are you doing Indiana Jones? It's just gonna be Uncharted, just with Indiana Jones." And it's not that at all. Like everyone's expecting this crazy action, gun shooting, car chases, blah blah blah. No. If you've ever seen an Indiana Jones movie, it's a lot of pacing. There's a lot of he's in a temple, he's solving clues, there's gonna be traps, punch some Nazis. It's mostly fist fighting. Every once in a while he has a gun, and that's exactly how this game works. There's not a lot of action, but the action that is here I found to be very fun. The puzzles in this game I was loving. I love the puzzles in this game. But yeah, I was also too like all the trailers, they don't explain much of the whip. And I was surprised. I wasn't using the whip too much, but the whip is actually a pretty cool tool. You do a lot of traversal because every map is semi-open world. Like you're mostly walking around doing tasks, collecting things, finding hidden objects, solving more puzzles and riddles. It's not necessary, but it's just a ton of fun.
A lot of those aspects are like that, though. Like, and I want to hear before I say too much. Like, I want to hear what Keith had to say too, because you bring up one point like about the correlation in the movies. Like, Indiana Jones never takes more than like maybe one gunshot, right, per movie.
Yeah.
Maybe he might get stabbed or you might get this, but he's not a superhero. He's not Nathan Drake, right? He's not this guy that has a health bar that is like it's just you have to imagine from a gameplay standpoint, even how do you build a story and a game that functions like this around a character that is inherently not invincible. It's not like he's Die Hard, right? Like not Bruce Willis was like the first action hero that got bloody. Got it, understood. But like Indiana Jones took some punches in the 80s, like, and he got stabbed a couple times. And this game plays exactly like that. Like you get a stab wound or you go to the underground boxing ring, like you'll get knocked out for sure. But like it's not gory. He doesn't take a million bullets to the face and stand back. Like it's just a very true to the core premise of the movies that you could imagine as a game translation.
No, I guess I was starting to wonder. I was like, is Indiana Jones a little like Batman? Because like, and he just doesn't kill people. Because most of my interactions went with fists, and he just seems to knock them out, and you can like move the body or whatever. But they don't. No, it never. There's nothing that tells me they're dead or alive. I just couldn't really tell. And I know you have the gun, but I think I shot it once because I was trying to figure out a puzzle that I was stuck on, and then I realized I was just
You
really
decided
dumb.
to shoot it.
Yeah,
I tried to shoot like the altars to like light them up, but that didn't work either. I was like, oh
well,
crap.
it was in the sewers, I think, and I had to like climb up to the center point.
Oh, I
And
know
I
what part
just
you're talking about. So I
it
actually
took
had the
me
same thought.
took me a while to realize that the white paint man came along and
Yeah.
showed me where to go. Good old white paint man. So don't get stuck there. I tried shooting at it. I was like, maybe I can shoot it down.
But you only collect like I mean, Andrew, you and I same way in where I guess in the essentially like just started the second act, but like I've only collected 8 bullets. Like I don't even have that many rounds to
Yeah.
use.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think
I only had like 5, so I took like 2 shots, and I was like, nope. And I actually reloaded so I didn't waste the bullets because like
but
that's
that's the reality of it though. Like he doesn't use a gun. Like he used a gun one time in the movie. No, he used a gun a couple times, but like he shot that guy one time. That famous scene where he shot the guy in the middle of the square. But that was about it. Like he doesn't use the gun that much, and that's just how to like make that flow in a game blows my mind because it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was interesting too. I don't know. It didn't tell you had to be stealth. Like it showed you to be stealthy, and it showed you could be, but like it never was like, hey, you kind of just better off doing everything via stealth. And it kind of like you don't. I don't know. Again, at least from my perspective, because like he's an action hero, I don't picture stealth as Indiana Jones, but I can also see where it makes sense because again, he's an archaeologist. Like you said, he's not a superhuman, and I know that aspect of it. That's why when I was talking about the kind of potentially paranormal-ish or supernatural storyline to it, I was like, is that an Indiana Jones thing? Because I was like, he's just a dude. I don't
Normally,
know. So
not normally, but he is a regular guy. Like that's the thing. Like he's a regular guy, and he's a little bit goofy too. Like not aloof, but like goofy. Like when he punches somebody, or he'll make a distraction and to do something like that just looks silly. Like that's the way that those movies always worked. And on those puzzles and ways to approach, Keith, the cool thing is almost every area that you're tasked with getting around somebody or something, there's an alternate way to do it, whether it be the whip or like sneaking up a scaffolding to crawl across that white paint you were talking about. Like there's always a different way to do it, which is again cool for the gameplay aspect. But he's always a little goofy about it. Like when he punches a guy, he'll make like an oof or some weird noise, and it just
I know.
sounds and it plays into the guy falling off the balcony, and then it's just fun like that. But that's the way the character is.
Yeah, he definitely had a couple one-liners as I like threw some bodies like over a wall or whatever. But there, yeah, like I was look. That's what I was looking for was like those side paths in most cases. Because one thing I noticed in particular, at least as far as I was into it, the AI is not very smart, so it helps the stealth aspect of it. And I was only playing on the medium normal difficulty, whatever. I didn't go down. I just left it where it was.
I played on
And
hard.
Good for you.
Well, because I'm going to give some perspectives when Keith's done talking.
but anyway, yeah, the AI overall, like you could kind of just get him to a certain point, and you're like, I could just run away. Like at one point, I just ran back into the chapel, and I just ducked down behind a wall, and they didn't go up 2 flights of stairs, and I was on the third
I know
one.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, whoops, because I stole something I didn't mean to. I hit the button too quickly, and well, that happens. It was my apex fingers coming out.
Yes, the AI is not super smart, but I didn't find this game very difficult. Like I said, I played on hard, so it has like two different difficulties, one for combat and one for like adventure mode, which is like the puzzles. And so playing on hard, like the highest difficulty for adventure is medium, and then for combat it was hard. I think there was one more difficulty higher, but either way, I didn't find it very hard. There was a couple times where I legitimately fought the entire base fist fighting, and I was able to punch them all out. So yeah, the AI is not very bright. The combat's kind of easy to kind of work with. So I recommend if you like a slight challenge. I've only died a handful of times, and the stage forgiving. If you're kind of like me, you're a hardcore gamer, I would maybe recommend on hard. What did you play on, Donnie?
I played like similar to what sounds like Keith did, was like moderate
Okay.
right across the bar. However, though that said, you can actually play. So after you set those, when you first start up the game, it does tell you basically like Andrew said, 2 tiers where you say, okay, you want easy, medium, hard, and then you go to the second tier, which is the puzzles, and I think the quantity or something of bad guys, easy, medium, hard. Once you get past it though, you can change those settings later. So you can have maximum amount of bad guys, but they're all really weak, or minimum amount of bad guys, but they're all really strong. Like you can tweak the settings on the difficulty at puzzle stage, awareness stage, like every possible stage you can imagine. I just found that out today. I went into
Well, yeah,
just like
I was gonna say I
play.
didn't look into that.
I just went into today to play with it because like I remember setting these 3 settings, but there's really like 8 different controls on each version of those 3 settings. So like you can really fine tune it to like whatever you're feeling the challenge to be, which I thought was really cool. Again, gameplay aspect. That's awesome because you can play it however you want to. I played it on the moderate one, and then just today I turned on little beacons so I could see it like an Ubisoft game where I could just see the question mark over there. I didn't have to
Oh,
hold up my map,
And
which not talking about gameplay settings, but like he doesn't have a dial or a freaking smartwatch or some
yeah.
visor. He has to pull up an old school map, which takes up 90% of your screen. And then you're trying to find where it is. When you put the map away, the beacon goes away. I'm like, no, 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 no. F that noise. I'm turning that. I'm like, I got to get a couple levels in here before I talk to the boys. I'm like, I'm going to go. I just need to see the beacon. So like I've turned the beacons on and I was just running from point to point to point. And for that aspect, punching Nachis, it's fun as hell.
well, the
See,
fast travel is actually pretty nifty though, because you
Hmm.
can just travel between the signs. I don't know. There was one time I got further in than I wanted to be in terms of like, what was it, the no, the not the
The
chapel. I don't know.
Vatican? Yeah, just in the Vatican.
the
Yeah,
Sistine
I don't
Chapel.
know.
I got lost a couple
No,
times too.
yeah. Either way, I got myself right back to the center square. I was like, okay, recenter, get back to where I need to be.
The cool thing, and I'm sorry, Andrew, I'm sure you're about
No,
to
you're
jump
fine.
in, but on the maps, like from that aspect, Keith, 'cause I thought about it too, but the maps, what I noticed is that you do, and if you engage in any of the side quests, you're doing a little bit of fetch questing. Well, like you overhear hear these nuns saying they really wanted a picture of Antonio, so then you go back up to the office and you take a picture of Antonio and you bring it to the nuns. But by then you've learned the route. So then the next quest says, "Well, I need to go over here," and you're like, "Oh, well, actually, I can get up on this roof here, jump over here, flip through the window, and go that way." So instead of fast traveling like that whole time, I was just trying to learn the route of the Vatican. And
Yeah.
by the end of it, I was like jumping through windows and climbing over roofs just to avoid Nazis or to get to this place fastest, fascist at that point.
Yep.
just to get to the next piece. But you learn the map pretty well, and it's not a huge map, but it's expansive and it's technical, which is again a cool way to make a smaller map look really big.
Well, that said, the traversal is fun. Like the way he like leaps over things, especially if you're in a full sprint, and he'll just like go into a slide and just continue sprinting on. It's a lot of fun. The like you said, the whip traversal is a lot of fun. Just adds talent to everything.
Yeah, like and a lot of times with this game, there's a lot of enemies around, but that was the thing too, is they're not annoying. Like when I first started this game and I saw there's just not like a fascist everywhere, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be annoying. Like, am I gonna have to like constantly be watching my back? Somebody's seeing you. You gotta stealth. No, you're running around in a disguise. Captains can identify you, but it's pretty easy to notice that they're identifying you. Just avoid them. So like that's what also made the traversal fun. It didn't feel like I was constantly being scrutinized with everything I'm doing. Do I
But
have
when
to
you got to
watch
those
what I'm
areas,
doing?
wasn't it crazy to just be like, oh crap, I need to be calm, just walk
Yeah,
past this guy, like go to the next one? Like it just like that's the part of it that I remember being really like fun for just those random spots.
yeah. Like it just, even though, so you spend a lot of time in the Vatican. The first area you kind of go to, like it's not super big, but as Donnie was kind of saying, the more you're kind of doing it, you're unlocking also new routes that'll shorten your travel to like different parts of the area. So as you progress in the story, like it's, even though it's small, it's kind of getting bigger and bigger because you're opening these doors. But it was just a lot of fun of just kind of exploring this area. I never got sick of the Vatican, even though I've already spent like 5-6 hours on it already. But I was still like, I wouldn't mind going back and collecting all of the notes, all of the trinkets, because unlike you, Donnie, I didn't mind pulling up the map. I'm glad I figured it out. When I first started this game, I remember being like, oh boy, this is a game I'm going to get lost, because you first start in a little castle kind of thing, and it's a mini open world. It's kind of your introduction, kind of a tutorial of like, yeah, this is kind of how the game plays. And there was a time, I think I was playing with my friend David was playing. We were just talking together on party chat, and he was like, oh, I found this thing. And I'm like, we're like right next to each other. I didn't see this thing. Where'd you find this? So I'm like, just talking to him, I'm like, crap, I'm just going to miss so much stuff. I'm going to miss like an important key. But no, like it actually does a very good job. When you pull your map up, it actually has a good marker being like, yeah, check this area out. There's something there you need. And so once I figured out how to open the map and get the waypoints, it was helpful. Or be like Donnie and just keep the waypoints up.
I had to, man, at that point, because I was like, all right,
I don't blame you.
I'm sick across this desert here. I need to
Yeah.
just tell me that let's just run it and go. But see, that's a toggle you can turn off too. Like if you're like, this is just too easy at this point. But I don't know. It's again in the puzzles that we keep talking about in terms of gameplay, like they're not as easy puzzles like pull the lever. Like sometimes they are like that, but other
Yeah.
times it's like, well, how would Indiana Jones approach this? Like I was doing the gold path in a temple or something, and there fire was on the floor. So I'd use my whip, try to catch this thing, get across the gap. Nope, that thing broke. Well, what do I do now? Oh, there happens to be a column that fell over on the right hand side here. I'll just hop on that column and then jump, uh, kind of grapple across. And sure enough, that was the way to do it. So it's like, again, like putting that hat on, the fedora on, and you're like, how would Indiana Jones approach this? It plays perfectly. It
This,
plays more perfectly than a Nathan Drake or an Uncharted could.
yeah.
It plays more to the character than any of those titles that tried to emulate this character, Tomb Raider included. Like, it doesn't play like that. It's very different.
This is going to be one of my complaints with the gameplay. What I wish there was more temples and puzzles. I'm sure there is, obviously, when you finish the game, but from where we're at, you've experienced like two. And the other thing that kind of annoys me is, so the game obviously starts off with a very iconic movie segment of him going through this dungeon, and he sees these traps a mile away. Don't touch the light. Oh, there's these floors are triggered. But so far in the rest of the game, he's a complete idiot with the traps. He's pulling a switch and he's like, oh, the floor's opening. And it's just like, I kind of wish they added the gameplay of him having a sixth sense, being like, hey, there might be a trap in this area. Because like you said, that gold path one, like he's reading a clue where it's like, oh, you're going to traverse fire. And he puts the stell in, and fire starts activating. He's like, there's fire. And it's like, what? How'd you not know this? Like, that's the only thing that's kind of annoying me, where I'm like, how did he become an idiot with these traps now?
So I don't know if I missed it somewhere, but I would like, you're picking up these comic books or whatever that are supposed to improve your skills. Do they automatically improve your skills, or
No,
there's
you
also
have to
like,
spend points. Have
That's
you
the
not been doing
RPG
that?
part of it. Yeah, you got to spend points to you got to invest in them.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you guys got any pro tips on that,
You'll see them all in your inventory. And the inventory. So one gripe I do have
I think
about
I bought
gameplay.
one of them actually then, because I think I could be wrong. I think I found where you buy them.
The skill tree is not my favorite. Like, you have to flip to a page in the book, and then you select your skill, if it's fitness, survival, endurance, like whatever, and then you slide over, and then it says you have this book of the boxers times the 1950s, and so you say okay, sure, and then you invest your points into it, which it's fine. Like, the investing point, it's hard to navigate that book sometimes when you're like flipping through the menus and trying to see like clues from things you picked up. Don't appreciate that part about the gameplay aspect. But how would you do it? He has to use a little journal. That's what he does in the movies. So how do you do it?
It makes sense because, all right, so essentially the experience points are called adventure points. Everything you're
Right.
doing, you're getting adventure points. Pictures, solving a puzzle, doing side quests, you get adventure points. Those are essentially experience points. And when you get a skill book, you unlock that skill, but you need to spend your adventure points to actually acquire the skill. So that was your issue, Keith. You got the book, but you were not getting those skills because you weren't spending your points. But it makes sense this way because you can't have Indiana Jones getting experience points from punching Nazis because he wasn't an action star. So it is confusing, but I do like this skill system.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think it blends into like how would you level up this guy who's not a superhero? Oh, he learned how to uppercut. Great. That's a comic book that he read, or a periodical or whatever it is. So that makes sense to me. Like, the upgrade system is not the confusing part. It's just
like
operating the menu
that's
is
how I
what.
learned uppercut. I read a book,
Just read a comic book. Yeah.
But man, so Keith, you haven't spent any of your skill points. Do you have like 100,000 adventure points?
I think I only have like 3 books or 4 books. I don't know.
Okay.
I have to look at it. I honestly think I might have bought one by accident. Kind of like just like clicking through, like, okay, I think I can, like, I don't know, if you just click the button, it like shows you those books. And like, I remember seeing that menu. So I think I might have actually done it. I just didn't totally understand what was going on.
They don't change the gameplay that much, but over time, right? 2%, 2%, 2%. Like, it does change. And I'm not saying that's the exact thing. I'm just saying it does change incrementally over time. You can get extra health bars, and you can be more fortified. So it does change it, but it's not a killer if you rush through it.
I mean, they are very helpful. I can't tell if it's a book, but it's something I noticed, at least when you get to Giza. So a main aspect of this game is you're wearing a costume. When you go to the Vatican, you dress up as a priest to essentially be undercover. So the fascists think you belong there and they don't harass you. Because obviously, if you're walking around as a dude in a fedora, they're going to know you're not supposed to be there.
You look American.
Yeah. But anywhere, any of these maps, you're wearing some sort of costume. And it took me a while to figure out that the costumes actually have an associated weapon with them. Because anytime I was dressed as a priest, I'm like, where is my gun? I thought I had a gun. Did I lose it? And it's not until you actually switch to your adventure, normal Indiana Jones outfit, you get your gun back. When you're the priest, you have a cane, and you can it's an infinite weapon that breaks, and you use a repair kit to fix it. But if you're playing as in the Giza, you're playing as one of the excavation diggers, and he has a shovel when he's in that outfit. But if you're also playing as the adventurer, your normal outfit, you always got a second wind. So I started using the gun a bunch in Egypt. I literally kept killing a Nazi and picking up his rifle. The rifles were a one-hit kill. So I'm just blasting everyone, which of course is alerting everyone around me. But it was actually super easy because anytime I would die, you had a second wind where you would crawl around, but if you pick up your fedora, you get revived. So I was just awesome. Like, all right, then I'm just going to take cover till that recharges and start just blasting more Nazis. But it was actually a ton of fun.
That is one of the upgrades you have to buy. Like,
okay,
you have
so
to
I
buy
wasn't
that
sure
one.
if it was, but I thought
it was because I just bought.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
So you just turned this game into a first-person shooter.
Yeah, it really has. I'm literally just blasting everyone now.
Well, it doesn't. It's not only for shooting either. It's like anytime you get knocked down, like what it is in.
You get back up again.
Well, no, Andrew's stomping on the legacy of Indiana Jones here. His telltale thing, he gets knocked down, he picks up his hat, and he goes back up for a second round. Like, that was the whole thing. So that's the theme behind this. Like, basically what happens if you get knocked out or killed or whatever, you have to search around on the ground and crawl till you find your hat. You put it back on, and that's when you can stand back up and take, another couple shots.
It was just going to make me laugh because I'm literally getting blasted by a firing squad.
It's making me laugh that you're disrespecting Indiana Jones in this manner.
But it's just funny because I pick up his hat and he always does the same animation of his, smirk when he picks up his fedora, which is great. It's very iconic, but it's just funny because he's doing this smirk and there's literally 10 Nazis behind me, all with machine guns. And I'm just like, yeah, I got my hat back. They're just blasting me again.
Yeah, that's some of the downside, like you said, AI and stuff like that. Like they're not super intelligent, and some of those. There's 300 hours of cutscenes in this. 300 hours of cutscenes.
Is there,
So like,
wait,
yeah.
that's like a legitimate.
Sorry, 300. 3 hours. Jesus Christ, 3 hours.
Yeah, I was like, how is
It's a
this a
big difference.
30-hour game if it's 300 hours?
This is why it's a movie, because it is its own 3-hour movie. Like it's that much. Yeah, 300 hours would be crazy. But yeah, that's why it's so epic. But those scenes and some of those things when AI is just standing behind you, or like you knock out a guy in front of AI and they just don't even notice. It's like, this is normal at the Vatican, I guess.
There's another thing I want to kind of complain about, but it's also kind of a good thing. You can't shoot dogs.
Yeah, you can't.
Which is also annoying because like the dogs they're very
It's only annoying
hard.
that you tested it so many times, Andrew.
Don't tell me you did not try shooting the dog. The first dog you encounter, you whip and it cowers and it's whimpering, but I'm like, I gotta blast this dog because it's just gonna keep coming at me. And he won't shoot the dog. And I'm like, come on. Like I get it. Indiana Jones doesn't want to shoot Fido here, but I just know that dog's gonna bite me again. And you have to scare the dog away by, just cracking a whip by it and it scares it, but it's just
I tried punching the dog and it wouldn't work, so I'm not any better than you are.
Oh,
I did try to punch it.
Yeah, I'm a monster for trying to shoot it, but you guys are trying to punch a dog here.
Listen, old yeller, it's time to go.
I just thought maybe it'd leave me alone if I punched it. So it was kind of on the same, like snapping a whip at it. What if I hit it by mistake with a whip?
It's the same. It's the same animation. But again, like how would you gameplay that? There has to be dogs or some other threat that is not a guy, right? Like an Indiana Jones guy, he's not a superhero. He can't kick a dog apparently. Like what do you do?
I mean, it's very much his character. Like
it's great
because those Indiana Jones, they're PG movies. Like
yeah.
You would be having Indiana Jones.
This whole game is
dog
PG.
Like Old Yeller.
It's PG. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, they built
Indiana
it.
Jones goes to a puppy mill.
We've got to get these puppies out of here.
Oh, he's getting them out of there one way or another. Punching them out of there.
That's the sequel here. Jones goes to a puppy mill.
Harrison Ford's last hurrah is
Indiana Jones and the Great Puppy Grinder. Oh no.
Guys, I heard there's a golden turd in this puppy mill.
Next segment.
But yeah. So I'm glad this is what really impresses me. Like this, I feel like so many times you see a movie adaptation game, something like that. They always are like, oh yeah, we want you to feel like so and so. This is like the first one where they really, really did their homework.
Star Wars Outlaws. You didn't think that you felt like you were that character? New story, Star Wars Outlaws. I felt a lot of connection to Star Wars Outlaws in this one. Now, granted, it's another Lucasfilm video game franchise, but I'm just saying, like I felt there was some correlation. I felt at least.
Well, I didn't.
Did
play
you never play the Lion King game on Sega Genesis?
Yeah, I played the Lion King.
I
already referenced Aladdin. Come on, Keith.
Okay, that very much felt like I was in the game. Very immersive, just like Lion King.
Keith kept going around and roaring around his house as a little kid. Because
that's why all the Nazis were getting alerted.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king. I felt like I was living the song.
Fair.
But yeah. So what did you guys think of the fist fighting in this game, though?
Can't beat that noise, dude. Little wet slap.
Oh, so iconic.
Nothing better than that. God. It really is.
I think you moaned a little too much there.
Go watch the movies, Keith. You'll understand what I'm talking about. There's a slap involved with these punches that you cannot replicate that sound.
You were just like, God.
It is good, man. It's good stuff.
It is very iconic. Like that's it. Talk a little bit about the sound, but the sound in this game is so good.
That's it. They nailed it.
They really did. It's wild. Like that's also what's just crazy about it. It's just like when you're doing these fights, the hits just feel hefty. Knocking a guy out, because also too, I will say like the enemies, their reflexes, when you hit a guy and they're not quite out, but they're kind of staggering a little bit, and you just do another hit and they just completely flop over.
Spaghetti, yeah.
So good.
Nothing better.
I will say the combat, the fist fighting is super easy. And I do like, so the part I'm at when you're in Egypt and Giza, it's very much more open. A lot of Nazis do have guns, But I noticed they don't really shoot the guns unless you're shooting a gun. If I go up and I punch one of their partners, even though the guy has a gun on his back, they will still run up to you and try to fist fight you. So I do kind of like that this game really does play with what you're doing. If you just start blasting Nazis, they're going to start blasting back. But if you're punching them, they're just going to punch you back.
Pretty sure if someone punches you and shoot them, that's not self-defense. You have to.
But they're Nazis. They don't care.
Hey, look,
Well, no, but
they have standards.
think about it from like Call of
Nazi
Duty
standards.
standpoint, though. Like if you do
No,
anything,
I don't mean that.
I'm saying like if you bring a gun out of any game and you shoot somebody, you're gonna get just like onslaught after guy after guy after guy, all just going nuts. So this to your point, Andrew, it plays into the fact that like this is not that kind of game. Like you didn't, unless you go out shooting your 7 shells in your revolver, it's not gonna work like that, which is fair, appropriate.
Yeah. But I gotta say, the thing I feel like we glossed over quickly, the puzzles. The puzzles of this game are great. They were all fun. Like a lot of them are side quests. A lot of the puzzles are just you don't have to do it, but you're finding a code to open a chest. To me, they were just so much fun. I never got stumped on any of them. No, wait, there's one I looked up. I lied. But most of them usually have the notes right by the chest. And it's usually like, here's a picture, and then here's kind of a key code. Figure out what the combination is with this. And they always made me think. I usually had to stop and just kind of think about it a little bit, but they were fun. They were so well designed.
Yeah, I think the ones I've played with so far, I've looked up 1 or 2 of them just to find it to go quicker. But like you said, most of them you can find either the one thing that puzzle wise you reference chests. Like the chests I thought were interesting. The one that really confused me when I was in the Vatican, fascist came in and he was talking about a card that his supervisor gave him on the November 1st. The year he was like 86 or whatever, 37, whatever year it was, and I didn't realize at the time that was the code to the chest. But when I couldn't find it to save the life of me, I actually had to look it up online, and when it was like, oh yeah, the Nazi or the fascist actually said it. He said it when he walked in. It was 11 November, and it was the year 37. So like I went into the thing, put the code in 1137, and it opened the chest right away, which I thought was really really crazy on a puzzle level. But to
Yeah.
your point, like if you have your fedora on, you're looking for that stuff, you find it easily. Like you can find it more easily than if you had no idea how to approach this game or how like an Indiana Jones movie went. You wouldn't know that like, oh, you'd overhear the code from this guy or you got a postcard from him on this date. Like that was just weird, but a crazy interesting way that I also really enjoyed from the puzzle standpoint.
Because a lot of the puzzles too are like visual cues. There was one I had. I'm looking around. I'm seeing no notes. So I'm like, how do I solve this chest? But then I noticed that there was a random lamp that was just bright green and it was stuck out like a sore thumb because I'm in a room full of artifacts. And I turned that light off and code just got highlighted there. And I'm like, oh, well, that was cool. Like they were all just, some are visual, some you actually got to think and solve a code, but I loved them. But Javier in our chat asked a good question. I forgot to bring this up. He asked, did any of you guys have any crashes? And I got to say, I didn't. This is another thing that surprised me so much about this game. I found this game to be very solid. I don't think I had any bugs or glitches. It worked well for me.
Yeah, I can't think of anything where it crashed on me.
I played on Series S and I played on the cloud for probably 3 or 4 hours in the cloud and majority of the time on the S, and no problems at all.
Yeah. So this is another thing that's very
It was
rare.
cloud ready. It was a cloud ready day 1 launch. Like you
Yeah.
don't think that would have been worked out? I think that's part of it. Like I think it has to be pretty bulletproof to be on there. But
So Javier had a crash both in the area of the Vatican that leads to the sewer. So I know what area you're talking about, but no. Yeah, I played a good amount on the cloud, and it worked well on the cloud. Latency was very minimal.
And it's smart too with a completely single player game. Like no reason to not have it play well on there. If you're gonna put it on there day 1, like obviously there's some games that are gonna struggle, multiplayer games, twitchy type games. It doesn't have any of that, so it's a perfect cloud playing game. Like if I had 2 hours a day on a bus or a train or whatever, and I could just sit and just put it on, this would be great time killer for that, or on a plane or whatever it might be.
It saves quite often. The other thing I love too is whenever you boot the game up, you have like obviously your menu, but it's actually like
You're
your
right
save
there.
game. Yeah, so as soon as you hit continue, it just like there's no load screen.
Yeah.
It's just you're
Yeah.
playing.
I noticed that
Super
today
cool.
too. I noticed that on cloud when I was playing. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't I don't think there's any loading screens at all now that I think about it. I don't think I've ever saw a loading screen.
Oh, just the cutscenes, which
I'm assuming loads then.
300 hours is a lot, boys. Keep in mind.
That's how you got me off guard. I'm like, this is a 32-hour game. Is a 32-hour gameplay?
That's
with
still
300-hour
impressive. Like I
cutscenes?
want to see, like in 6 months' time they'll have just like the cut, like all the cutscenes streamed together like a movie. Like I want to watch that. Like I want to just watch that cutscene version of the game.
I feel like someone's probably already got that up on YouTube.
Probably.
But yeah, like I mean, 3 hours in a 32-hour game. That's a good balance though. It's still putting a lot on the gameplay, and I'm sure there's still like kind of like quote unquote not cutscenes, but cutscenes within that gameplay time. But at the same token, that's I don't know. I think that's a good equal balance of where it should be.
Well, and you referenced it one time too, Keith. I think you were talking about. I don't think it was cutscenes per se, but like the way that you can. It's just the way that like this thing plays. It plays like the actual movie, like it really does. And you can do. Okay, I know what you're saying. No, the side quests. You were referencing the side quests or something before, but you don't have to do any of them. You can just go
Yeah.
straight through the story and just run it. And then with those signposts that you were talking about, also you can go back to that. So you can go back to that courtyard in the Vatican and knock out those 4 fetch quests that you didn't do after you beat the whole game. So like there is like some longevity to it too, which I think these side quests and stuff, again, I reference like the Ubisoft where there's just like question marks everywhere.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
hate
have to
that.
acknowledge that. You don't have to do that stuff. You can stick to the story and come back or spend as much time at the Vatican as you want to. It's I thought they did that pretty tactfully as well.
Yeah, that's what shows like a sign of a good game. Because I mentioned this before in other games. I hate when they're like, oh, there's side quests. But if you don't do the side quest, you're so underleveled. You really can't progress the story because your character just sucks. In this, as we kind of mentioned, you get a lot of skill books. They're helpful, but to me, none of them felt like I needed this skill. Like if you're just going to be completely underleveled. This really did feel like a game where the side quest stuff actually is optional.
Yep. And that's part of Keith's not upgrading his skills. Like he'll be able to finish the game. That's fine. It's just like, do you want to take a couple more hits or not? It's up to
God,
you.
I would have loved if Keith put 20 hours in this game, not realizing at all that he wasn't buying a single skill.
I'd say I'd prove it after this. I don't know if people will believe me whether I bought a skill or not, but I think I bought a skill. I still think I did it.
You got to sell those medicine bottles, man.
But Javier in the chat also made another good point that he asked if you guys installed the 44.6 gigabyte higher resolution texture pack. I forgot that this had it. I think I did too. But with games getting so large, I love that this was an optional feature. Do you just want to do, I think it like the base game, I think it's like 60 gigs, which is still hefty. I mean, it's a hefty game, but it's like,
I think it's a 31 total if you include everything. So that makes, well, rough math.
still less than Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was a lot. I think I was able to uninstall enough things to do it. And I was like, yeah, why not? If I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go all in.
But yeah, we talked real quick about the sound, but I want to talk more about the sound design since we're already kind of running here. They did a fantastic job. The music, like even right after the beginning, they just have it's not super in your face of the Indiana Jones theme song, but it's how the movie does it a lot.
Yeah.
It's just subtly in the background playing a lot of orchestral music. It fits so well in this universe. The voice acting, as we said, Troy Baker, I would swear this was Harrison Ford. He does a great job. His mannerisms, the way he says his quips when he knocks people out, it just sounds so much like Harrison Ford. It's crazy how good of a job this guy did.
It does. And did you notice, Andrew? Because I noticed again today. I was really like, trying to tune in to make sure I was prepared here. But I had headphones on and I was listening to it, and I noticed something interesting about that. So the first off, the theme, like the main Indiana Jones theme, I think you only hear like once in the title credits or something. Like you don't hear it often. You hear bits and pieces of it, but it's often like ends with a different kind of up or down tone that doesn't sound exactly right. But the beautiful thing that I noticed today was like you go into a dark room or a tunnel, or you come out and you see a relic, like these little chimes, like you said, subtly come up, just like in the movies, right? Like a bring, like a weird kind of like tingle comes through, like just as he sees the relic on the horizon or whatever it is that he's reaching for, like those like swelling and whatnot of the music timed with the gameplay. It is like awesome. Like that is just fantastic. Some of the best sound design. But again, it took it right out of the movies, right? Like they just timed it perfectly where it really feels like these action scenes, these really suspenseful things are happening. And it feels good to play.
Yeah, I have one gripe with the sound though. Going back to it, it's the dog. You
I
don't
have one
interact
more.
with dogs too much, but when the dog's whimpering, it is nonstop whimpering, and it was so annoying. That was the only thing that was kind of annoying me, because the handful of times you do have a dog, it's kind of a big, it's like a camp, and so there's a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of collectibles, and I just hear this dog crying. Maybe that's part of the reason I wanted to shoot the dog too, but that was my only complaint with the sound.
Jeez.
Keith, did you have feedback on the songs? I have one thing to add to that.
I mean, I just noticed like the subtle. Again, I know the Indiana Jones music. That's one of those things. It's like unless you completely live under a rock, you at least know that theme song. It's iconic in every aspect. So I could hear it like in the background, just like. But I don't know. Again, I guess I appreciated that. Yeah, it wasn't in your face all the time. I don't know how that fits into the normal movies, but I did appreciate that it was just kind of subtly in the background as you were kind of like, I don't know, just going through things.
It's funny. You'll notice it like next time when he goes to reach for an artifact or opens a door slowly. Like you'll hear it kind of swell, and it's like that's pretty cool. But the thing I was gonna notice, Andrew, and this will ruin the game for you, and I promise. So do you want the spoiler or not? Because if you
Sure.
haven't thought about it, you will. So when you walk into a room or a place or a tent or wherever, and maybe you haven't scoped it out, whatever, you'll always hear a subtle cough or a snore or somebody clearing their throat, and that's a signal that there's an enemy over there. So like you may not have seen them yet, but they'll just go oh, like make little like kind of grunting noises every 3 seconds or so, and you're gonna hear that for the rest of your playthrough. Every
Hey, that's
time
fun to know.
there's an NPC in the room that you weren't aware of. So enjoy
Yeah, I
that.
think I noticed that. Now I probably will.
Now you
Yeah, you
will.
probably just ruined this game for me. This is a hard pass now.
Hate it.
But graphics now, go to the graphics of the game though. I gotta say, great. This is probably another one of my slight complaints. It's very slight. Sometimes I didn't feel like Indiana Jones looked like Indiana Jones. There was a couple times where I'm just like, his character model looked a little weird, but it's very minor, because it's usually, for me, I guess it was mostly when he was not in his classic outfit. And that's the thing. I don't know if it's just because he's not his classic outfit, but it generally was his face. His face, like
Yeah.
his eyes. I think you would just point out,
Eyes.
Donnie.
Yeah.
It looked
Their eyes are always
slightly
wide
off.
open and they're glossy as hell, and it just looks weird as crap. And everywhere they're looking, they're just looking weird.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not just me. I'm like, it might be nitpicky. Okay, but I'm glad you're the.
Well, on that, to compliment that, like 30 seconds into that first level, when you first boot the game up, I was like, oh, "This is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like this is
Yeah.
they're going in. This is gonna be the big scene." And
Yeah.
I kept looking at the guy who is like the main guy, and I forget his name now, but he's like the guy that follows Indy into the temple, and he shaves all the spiders off his back. Like that main guy, like looks different in the game than he does in the cutscenes. Because I was like, oh, wait a second, if this is the guy, and it totally was a different character model, then in the cutscene he looked like the actor from the actual movie, which is bizarre. I found like that was a little immersion breaking for me because I kept looking back at him and I'm like, that's not the dude that's actually in the movie, and then in the cutscenes it was. So like it was really bizarre, but there were
So
scenes
wait,
like
wait,
that
wait, real
in the
quick.
eyes.
So this is set between two Indiana Jones movies. Is that actually like a full on scene, like even leading up to the temple with or from I guess what Raiders of the Lost Ark? Because it would
It's a
be from the first
flashback
one.
in the game. It's a flashback,
But yeah, that's part of the
Okay.
movie.
but it is
Okay.
part of the
So
movie. It's the first 10
that's
minutes of the movie,
okay. I didn't know that was like a direct cut from the movie. Like I knew that I
shot
at
for
least
shot.
knew
Yeah.
I knew that the at least the like the swapping out the idol thing was like part of it. I knew the rolling ball, but I didn't realize that that was
Shot
completely.
for shot, which was so cool to like relive as a player. Like that was fun to go through that scene because like that's again
So
what I've
see,
seen a
that's
hundred
another one
thousand
of those
times.
things. Like if this is like part of my childhood growing up and I'd watched that movie a bunch, then all of a sudden getting to play it, I'd be like, I'm hooked. I'm in. Like I could see where if that's part of like who you are, like that's gonna hook you in right away. So I think Andrew's wrong on that because he tried to say that didn't matter.
He said it
It
matters.
was cool. Yeah.
We had to
But
drag it out of him. Let's be
it's not like
honest.
it's
He didn't
to
want to
me, I
say
don't
it.
think I would add or take away points. Like it wasn't anything that like I'm like, this game's now a 98 because of that. It was cool. But as Daddy said, yeah, it's cool because it's a shot for shot. Indiana Jones jumping around the jungle like an idiot, or me having him swim in the lake. That happened in the movie. It was just like the movie. No, but it's cool. But I don't know. It like I said, it didn't like move the needle really for me.
They added to that scene too with like the whole solving the puzzle before the idol thing, which was a totally different scene. So like there's complimentary stuff that I think that they did a great job.
Uh, but yeah. So overall, though, the graphics are great. Like some of the character models are a little wonky and a little brick, but overall, though, this it felt so good. It felt like the 1937s, and it felt like Indiana Jones.
The aesthetics were great, like the Vatican, obviously, and I've only seen up to Giza, but the temples and the underground stuff is great. Keep in mind too, like the main again the main ploys of Indiana Jones, he goes to like 4 or 6 different places in a movie, and that's it. But it's the characters, right? It's the girlfriend, it's the Gina character, it's the priest that you met, that's your buddy. It's Marcus Brody, who is amazing, that voice actor, and the way he looked like when those cutscenes were playing, they looked fantastic. And in between parts, just as good, but obviously not as polished as the cutscenes. But like the bad guy looks fantastic. The giants kind of had their own look. That
Yeah,
uniqueness to it did make it fresh. But obviously, they can't have a million different character models for every Nazi walks through the
I
camp.
know. It's a minor complaint.
Seems like they could have done more. Could have done 350 hours cutscenes.
Maybe.
But the achievements of this game though are also really good. Looking at the list, it's everything's super achievable. This game's obviously a bit hefty, but this game does a great job drip feeding you. Like I was surprised, everything is essentially a weapon. When you walk in a room, it's like there's a hammer over there, there's a fly swatter, there's a broom, there's a dustpan, there's like a bagel. Well, a bagel you can't use a weapon, but just about like everything is a weapon, and it's great because sometimes I picked up a guitar and I smashed somebody. Oh, there's an achievement. Like the achievements of this game were there were a good level of fun and progression, and just I love they did a great job with the achievements. They felt once again the achievements were like an Indiana Jones kind of thing.
I agree. I had a good time with it. I think the first two like things I picked up and snuck up behind people, I ended up doing like nut shots on them. But whatever
Yeah,
it was, like
yeah.
it was funny to see that with a guitar. I mean, that's an interesting thing to do. But yeah, then I got an achievement for it. Or the fly swatter was an achievement. So like, yeah, I thought those were fun, and I'm looking forward to tackling those all of them as many as I can at least. But yeah, they were fun so far.
Yeah, but like it's once again shown that they did their homework because there's like I said, there's no achievement to be like only use your whip the entire game or make sure you shoot every Nazi. Like that's clearly like none of the achievements are out of what Indiana Jones would do. So it's crazy. Machine Games really did their homework of this game.
Yeah,
But yeah,
agreed.
let's get to our final thoughts here. Who wants to go first?
Let's do it.
Yeah, Keith, why don't you go?
So they'll say this is really, I guess, my biggest foray into the Indiana Jones verse. I think I've seen the Disney show, like when I was in Disney, like they do the Indiana Jones live. So I've probably seen that too, I guess. But we'll call this really my first introduction into it overall. And I mean, it's at least everything I expected it to be. It's fun to play. The story, if you again, I don't know. It's hard to say, I guess, but at least from where I'm coming from, it had knew enough about it that I was interested to find out where it was going, and just again kind of watch it like my first 300-hour long Indiana Jones movie. So I had fun with it. I would recommend it even if you haven't, but if you're an Indiana Jones fan, I think you're gonna like this, and I think Andrew and Donnie have agreed with that. So anyway, 85, 6, 86.
85.
That's a
Fair.
new number, 85.6.
Why don't you go, Daddy?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I've said my piece a couple times. I'm obviously a big Indiana Jones fan. Had a really good time with this. Not finished with it yet. Excited to play more. I certainly will. I don't know if I'll 100% it. I haven't 100%ed a game in a long, long time, but it'll be fun to know that I can go back and play some of those side quest things. So it's got me hooked, man. And again, I think they did Machine Gun Games and just whoever had influence on this did a really good job. The research is appreciated, and I think it's a fun game. If you're heading into it thinking, "Oh, I loved Uncharted, this is going to be just like that," you're wrong. It's not that kind of game. It's not a first person shooter by any means. You really have to put a different hat on. Yeah, waiting for that. You have to put a different hat on. So you put a different hat on, and you kind of appreciate the way that this game plays differently than those. I think it's very unique. It's something that is hard to replicate, specifically with the title and franchise as large as Indiana Jones. But definitely one to play if you're into puzzle solving and some, just it's a PG rated game. Essentially it is, but it still holds my attention. For all that, I'll again, if I wasn't a big fan, I think this score would be much lower, but I really did appreciate the game, and I'll give it a solid 90, 94. I'll say a 94 out of 100, just because I think it is something. If any of those things appeal to you, you should play.
All right. I'm glad. I was sitting there. I was like, we Keith gave it like an 80. I think, am I off? Like, am I just kind of? But I guess I'm
It's
in the
not
same
my
boat as you
favorite
guys.
because like there are times I want to go do a Wolfenstein. I want to go do a run and gun shooter. I want to play an MMO. I don't want to play a
Yeah.
game like this. This is a particular time that I want to play this game, but it's good when you want to play it.
Yeah. So as I said, I don't think you need to know Indiana Jones. Yes, I think it will help if you played it. But what surprised me with this is like even now when I think about it, like the game doesn't make me be like, oh, I need to stop right now and play this game. Anytime though I picked up Indiana Jones, I don't want to stop playing it. To me it's very fun. It has such a good feed of collecting things, a good feed of action, puzzle solving, exploration, and I never wanted to stop when I start playing it. It always just I want to go to the next objective. I want to go to the next puzzle. It hooks me. And it was surprising because, as I said, first seeing this game, I'm like, I don't get what's going on. But just, it felt like Indiana Jones. The sound, the design, the character models, the story. It's a fun time. It's just a fun action adventure game. And as Donnie said, it's very PG. I played in front of I felt fine playing in front of my 5-year-old because nothing's bloody. Even when I shoot somebody with a gun, no blood. Person just kind of slumps over. Same with punching people. It's very goofy and tongue in cheek. It doesn't take itself serious. This is not like, so I would at least recommend you at least try this game. Because as I said, it didn't, when I see it, I'm like, but when you play it, it's a lot of fun. It's just a great adventure. I'm giving it a 92. Any complaint I have is always very minor. It's just a cool adventure. But I'm also curious what you guys' thoughts. A lot of people I see complaining because this came out in December, and everyone's like, it's missing the Game Awards. It's not getting nominated. So this is going to be forgotten next year. But I was kind of thinking, this is coming out to PlayStation in spring. So even though people are like, this game's going to get forgotten, I think it's going to get rediscovered in spring. Do you think this game has a chance of being a Game Award contender next year?
I could see it at least being a nominee, possibly. I mean, I don't know what else is coming out on the horizon. I haven't fully looked.
Well, Grand Theft Auto comes out this year, supposedly.
Yeah, so that might do some things. I mean, that's part of like the 94 rating, right? Because like in my head after I said that, I'm like, oh, is it a 96? I'm like, is it like it's not a 96 to me, Andrew, for one of the reasons that you said. Like, I don't ever wake up and say, oh, I need to play this game, but when I'm playing it, I'm like, all right, now I'm like in the zone and I can understand it, and I'm gonna fly through these things and figure out these things and get to the next puzzle. So like, I think that maybe the timing, obviously, this being a day one deal on Xbox Game Pass, that they announced this 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, that it was coming day one.
I mean, well,
Like the
I think
point is,
so.
like
At least was announced like 4 years ago. Yeah.
this was locked and loaded. Like they didn't give a shit about award shows for
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't think so. And if the game plan was to bring it to PlayStation, then obviously, yeah, build this well while you have this deal locked in with Xbox to do this, right? Get it up, get it going. Then when the full sale PC, PlayStation, everything. Well, it's already on PC, but PlayStation, let the floodgates, and then there's a swell of people that will bring it back up again. Like that's a Disney, that's a Microsoft corporate game plan 101. Like who gives a shit about the game awards when you have that monetization strategy in mind 4 years in advance. That's not a consideration in my, I think they thought about that.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. Like I don't know if that's the accurate answer. That's just my response.
I was just kind of something to think about because I mean, obviously any company wants to be nominated because it's the same as like the Oscars. Anytime there's a movie of the year, game of the year, people want to check it out. What are all these nominees? Let me go and play. Because that was happening with Balatro. It was so funny seeing on Twitter people being like, Balatro, this game looks stupid. And then you see they're like, I apologize, this game's awesome. So I do like that, it makes people check it out.
But
And
a Microsoft 4 years ago, I'd never think that Balatro would win anything.
Yeah.
They're like, that's never going to happen. Like they had a game plan way before that was
That's true.
was even out.
But I don't know. That was just kind of something about. But yeah, I guess we could wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for joining us. I've been your hardcore gamer host, Andrew. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird0952. Please check out our sponsor, Magic Mind. Go to magicmind.com/bag20 and use our promo code bag20 to get a 20% discount. Please, and go to GamePassGrabBag.com. Join our Discord. See our live recordings, interact with us while we're doing this. Say hi to us. Me and Keith are quite active on there. We always love hearing from you guys, getting feedback. We have some great fans. We have a great community. Love everyone here that's been joining us for this long podcast journey we've been doing. But yeah, hopefully, and also get on and keep harassing Liz to get back on. We miss her. She's trying. We do have an episode slotted for her coming up soon. But Donnie, what are you up to?
Well, it's always been a pleasure, guys, and thank you for having me on for the Indiana Jones episode, because Andrew, I know you and I have talked about it a little bit, but Keith, it was great to get. I genuinely wanted to know what you were thinking about this, not having seen any of the movies. So I think that was fascinating, and I'm glad you had a good time with it. And anytime we can come together and hang out, as friends and whatnot, enjoy the same thing. It's a good time for me. So I look forward to another several 100,000 hours with you guys, just as long as those cutscenes. But it's tonight's certainly been a pleasure. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining. But this reminds me, I wanted to ask this, Keith. So since after playing this game, what interest level do you have in even watching an Indiana Jones movie now? Do you think you will watch one now?
No.
What? That's so weird.
Just watch one. Just watch one.
I know. It's so easy to access. It's just streaming.
It's everywhere.
It's just probably not. I don't know. There's something about it just doesn't appeal to me.
It's so weird. I will say, I remember I knew someone else too who never watched Star Wars and stuff like that. And I remember being like, why don't you ever watch the movies? And the thing he always said was, I could watch the movie and be cool like you, but you can never unwatch the movie and be cool like me. It's like, that's really dumb, but
fair.
It's a fair point.
I mean, that's not it, but I respect that.
All right, but give it an outro, Keith.
Keith. I am Keith. Yeah, your brother called me out on that last week. I am Keith. And in the holiday spirit, Donnie, you got a 91 this week. Great job.
Thanks, buddy. I'm really moving up in the world.
I said in the holiday spirit. We're in the holidays.
We'll see what happens the next couple 100 hours.
Perfect.
All right, everyone. Love you all. We'll see you again next week.